makes it no surprise that he has come up with a program that is the very embodiment of compassion. He has presented to our club in the past and inspired us to support his activity. And without stealing even a moment of his thunder, I won't tell you what it is. I'll let him tell you all about it. I introduce again to the club, Jason Balgopal. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, Aaron. I appreciate that. And thank you for the introduction. Very kind of you. And thank you to all for having me back again. I appreciate the time you've given me to speak to you. I'll start first by a bit of a story, just so you understand where I'm coming from. My nickname when I was a child is Jason Precisely. And that kind of gives a sense of what my mental makeup is. And it's not being a fellow who's precise and exacting is not necessarily a good thing. In fact, ultimately, it can take a bit of a toll on you, and it did. By about 2004, I ended up with a fairly severe case of depression, which necessitated a variety of things. I call them threads in that web of support, a variety of threads to help me, a doctor, a therapist, sometimes medication, obviously loving family. And through all of that and reading lots of books, lots and lots of books, I was able to get to a better headspace. It took about 10 years, but I was able to do that. But one of the things that I was missing was the support of others, other like-minded people, if you would have, people who had walked a mile in my shoes. And so back at the beginning of 2015, I started up a mental wellness peer support group, which is similar to AA, but different, in as much that there are no specific number of steps or anything like that, but is rather a gathering of people who get together, who have a wellness challenge, a mental wellness challenge, and who need some support. Let me, as I present, I'll show you some things on the screen, and there we go, that's one of them. This is sort of the back of the cards that we hand out to people, just little 4x6 cards, but they talk about what the purpose of the group is. And the purpose is to help anyone with a wellness challenge, a mental wellness challenge. It could be yourself. It could be even somebody supporting others. My child needs help, my spouse. And the important thing about these groups, in addition to being peer run and confidential, is it allows the people to get off of their chest what's bothering them. They have an opportunity to discuss what's going on and get support from other people. This is really important because for most people, when they're dealing with depression or anxiety or a hoarding issue, they've talked to their parents, their spouse, even their children, cousins, brothers, sisters, all of that ad infinitum. And a lot of people don't know how to deal with that. It's too much for them. They're not professionals. They've never experienced that. And, oh, Jason, really, do we have to listen to this again? And that's very challenging for people. The people in these groups, which up until the start of COVID had been all in person, they've had this before. They walked a mile in your shoes, and they have a sense of what's going on. So they're always very willing to listen because they know how important that is. And that is really the biggest part of that, is just having people who are interested in hearing what is challenging you, what is vexing you. And getting that off your chest is a certain cathartic ability to get things off your chest and have other people listen to you. Since COVID started, though, we've had a real challenge. We had been running 2 groups a week up until that point in person. Since COVID started, we had some challenges and some benefits. The challenge was, how do we meet? And we ultimately landed on Zoom, as most of the people in the world did. But what we also did was we used Meetup as sort of a sign-up sheet. And Meetup will look like this. This is our Meetup page. This is where people can go. Meetup is a site, it's a website, like just a sign-up sheet, effectively. People can go, they see that little placard there you saw earlier, and they can go down and they can look at the various upcoming events. And so we've got a meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. Dorothy's going to be hosting. And then on Sunday, we've got a meeting with Bella. Bill's got one on Monday, and then my meeting is going to be further down on Tuesday. You'll see a lot of these meetings, you got 4 attendees, 3 attendees. That's normal. We normally have, and then like my meeting, I've got 1 person showing up, because that's, quite frankly, Tuesday, so far away for a lot of people in their minds when they're looking at what they want to do. We average about 5.5 or 6 people each meeting. keep some basic statistics so we have a sense of what's going on. And people report really positive things back to us about the support we give. One of the other aspects of the group is that we offer feedback. Now, feedback is not advice. We're very specific that we don't want to give advice because we're not professionals. But what we will do is give empathy or best practices. And best practices sort of talk to that, I walked a mile in your shoes. And we tell our people, listen, if you want to give that feedback, think about phrasing it in the, when I was in your shoes, this is what worked well for me mode. If you can't do that, then you're not really giving the person the feedback that the group expects. And that's one of the real other good things about the group is that it offers people real world practical suggestions. Well, I shouldn't say suggestions, but feedback as to what worked well for somebody else. And so while when I was going through my depression, I believed the doctor, what the doctor said, and I, of course, believed the therapist, but there's always a bit of a hesitancy about how much is that actually going to work? Whereas when I go to the groups and somebody else said, listen, I went out into the forest and took a walk in the trees and I felt much better. Okay, well, what is that going to hurt? Let me try that myself. And that has been really, really valuable. We have facilitators. I'm one of them. We have a number of other facilitators. We've gotten them with money that we've gotten from Rotary groups. We've gotten them mental health first aid training from the Canadian Mental Health Association. And we also ensure that anytime there's a new person who comes into the group, we give a little introductory video. It's 2 minutes. And perhaps if you don't mind, I'll just play it here so you get a sense of what it's like.
Welcome to Virtual Mental Wellness, a confidential, caring, and supportive venue for people with a mental wellness challenge. Our meetings allow you to share what's on your mind and get support from others. We are not professionals. We are people with a mental wellness challenge too, people who have walked a mile in your shoes. If you need professional help or are in crisis, call 911. In the group, everyone has approximately 5 minutes to share. When you share, please let us know what name you'd like to be called, what your diagnosis is, and then tell us how your mental wellness challenge has affected you recently. Please ensure that your audio and video are both on. We need to see and hear you. The system focuses on any sounds, so initially the moderator will mute all members so the video does not bounce from one person to another. When somebody shares, other members can electronically raise their hand, and the moderator will recognize them when that person is finished sharing. The other member can then offer empathy or a suggestion. A suggestion is 1 or 2 sentences which might start, "When I was in your situation, I found X helped me." The meeting runs approximately 1 hour, and if you have to leave early, please let us know now so that your departure does not disrupt the group. By using the chat function, you can message all members or privately message the moderator. If you get a warning that your internet is unstable or that your computer keeps freezing, turn off other programs and limit usage of your Wi-Fi by other devices. I'll now turn it over to the moderator for this group. And don't forget, the groups are all confidential. What happens in the group stays in the group.
And so that, if we have a new person, is played so that everybody has a base understanding of how the groups are supposed to happen. And as I said, pre-COVID, we were running about 2 groups a week. We've now increased up to 6 groups a week. And we've also got one that's specifically for the Ministry of the Attorney General. And it's been very, very useful for them. They've been very pleased about this. On a go-forward basis, one of the things we're contemplating doing is, actually more than contemplating, actively working on now, is to get professionals involved. A lot of people need to get access to a therapist, but 1, they can't find one, and 2, they can't afford it. And so the model that we're working up on a go-forward basis, and we're hoping to start in the new year, is that people who come to our meetings and have attended a number of sessions will get access to a reduced fee therapist. We'll pay part of it, and then they'll pay a little bit of it. We're still trying to figure out the numbers, and we're trying to get the therapists into a budget that we can afford. But that will hopefully ensure that often people value what they pay little for, they value little. So if they pay a little bit of money, at least $25 or $30, that will ensure that they attend the sessions for the therapist, and we can pay the remaining $70, whatever we're hoping to get it maybe for $100 a session, but we'll see what the therapists agree to. And that hopefully will be able to be something that we can add on to our offering. So not only will we be giving the free peer support, but we'll also allow this will also act as sort of a venue to allow people to get lower cost professional supports in addition to the support they receive from us. I'll just finish off with this. One of the outreach videos we have, and I didn't play it, and that's fine, includes a lady who is just so excited about the offerings that we do that she wanted to be included in the video. She wanted to be included in our outreach video, which just sort of says, hey, this is what the groups are about, to say how much she values the time and how it has helped her. She's been part of our videos. We've had people who have written letters to the editor saying how much they really appreciate the meetings and how much they find them valuable and helpful. And that's heartwarming, and that's what the purpose of the meetings is for, to help people. So in a nutshell, that's our offering. That's what we've been doing for the last 6+ years now. And I'm just amazed at how much, well, the pandemic has been terrible for so many people, and we've seen a great uptick in the number of people we have been servicing, both in Toronto and internationally, because our reach now through Zoom is international. The benefits from Zoom are simply that we're able to offer these programs not just in our limited corner of the world, but anywhere. We have people now from the States, we have people from England, a lady from Singapore has shown up. And so the number of offerings we've offered has increased from 2 sessions a week now to 5-6 sessions a week, and we're very pleased about that. So I want to finish off just by saying again, thank you to your Rotary Club for all the support you've given over the years. I hope you see that you've actually made a meaningful difference, and that our little group and the work that we've done has increased, and that's directly attributable to the support you've given us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jason. We do have some time. Would you like to show the other video as well, if you have?
Yes, I can, absolutely, if you'd like to. Let me.
We have time, so maybe we can watch that as well.
Sure, I'll just get that. Video. Okay. You may find some similarities in the previous video. Oops, I hit the wrong button there, sorry. Okay.
A mental wellness peer support group is a safe and supportive venue for people with a wellness challenge, like depression, anxiety, PTSD, and other challenges. These free and confidential groups, which were started in 2015, allow each person to get off their chest how their wellness challenge is affecting them. They allow members to see that they are not alone and to get empathy from other members who've walked a mile in their shoes. The groups also offer a venue to share best practices and techniques for improving mental wellness. The groups are also a vital outlet for people who feel that they are overburdening their friends and family with their concerns. Our groups are 1 hour long and are facilitated by a member who is a peer, someone with a mental wellness challenge like you. The groups are confidential. However, Haley has found these groups to be so beneficial for her that she wanted to let you know how important they are for her.
The weekly confidential peer-to-peer support group has become a coveted time for me. I can let down the exterior I often put on during the week and share how I'm really doing in a safe and supportive space. When I share, if I'm up to it, I don't feel judgment, I feel support. Support comes in many ways, from people simply listening, offering empathy, or offering suggestions from their own experiences. I am so grateful for the vulnerability, kindness, and strength of my fellow peers who attend the meetings. I really value the community that the peer-to-peer support group has created. The peer-to-peer support meetings gives me strength and makes me feel more empowered during the week.
So, take these 4 steps to join us. Use Google Chrome as your browser. It's the best one. Then, sign up at meetup.com. Once you've done that, search for our group, Mental Wellness Peer-to-Peer Support Group, and ask to join. Once you are approved, you can select whichever meeting you wish to attend and will get access to the Zoom codes for that meeting. I'm looking forward to seeing you. Keep well, and have a good day.
There you go.
Thank you, Jason. Any questions?
Me, yeah.
Yeah, I do have a question.
Can I start with Benito and then I'll have Aaron first then?
Thank you, Jason. It's interesting what you are doing. Now that COVID has been changing how we organize as a humans, and your group is kind of restricted or protected by confidentiality, but now with these Zoom meetings, it's very easy for somebody in the other part of the world take screenshots, recording video, and be kind of evil if they want to be. How you deal with that?
We haven't experienced that. We've got no evidence that anybody has ever done that. We do each time tell people that the meetings are confidential and what happens in the meeting should stay in the meeting. And to a certain degree, we have to trust that people are doing that. The other thing we do to ensure that the people at the meetings are people that are quote unquote like-minded is that in order to join the meetup system, that's the sign-up sheet website, Meetup, they have to answer a screening question. And the screening question is, what is your wellness challenge and what kind of supports do you have? It's not a foolproof matter. People could lie at that as well, but they'd have to then take 2 steps. They'd have to lie at signing up for the meetup that will get them the access codes on Zoom. And then they'd have to join the Zoom meeting and then not follow the instructions, which is to keep things confidential. There have been occasions where people have signed up for the meetup system, and looking at their answers, I've said, sorry, this is not appropriate for you. You are just looking to be friends with somebody, or they don't even answer the questions. And I invite them to reapply and answer the questions. And sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. So we do have a screening process, which hopefully weeds out people who are bad actors. But at the same time, that is one of the challenges that we are experiencing with COVID and running on Zoom.
Oh, thank you.
Aaron, go ahead.
You mentioned that Ministry of the Attorney General has expressed some interest.
Yeah, we've got a group on Tuesdays at 4:30. That's run through same system. We've got Ministry of the Attorney General people. They also have the mental health first aid training. Exact same system. The only difference is it's only open to people in the Ministry of the Attorney General.
But it could be like a wide variety, staff, crowds.
Staff, absolutely. So I mean, they're very pleased about that as well. And I think I've got something I can show you there.
Do you find there's a difference in the way that people respond in the group, given that they have a shared work environment, as opposed to people coming from a heterogeneous work or non-working environment?
Well, I think the difference is, and there's sort of the front of the card that people want to sign up at Meetup, and they can go look for MAG mental wellness, as opposed to just our mental wellness peer support groups. The difference, I think it's interesting because I was talking to, I can't remember his name. He's, Dr. Telfer at the University of Western Ontario Law School, because we were looking to expand our group there as well. And he said, listen, we can open up a group specifically for the law students, like we've done with the Ministry of the Attorney General, or we can leave it more open and the law students can just come into the open group. And it was interesting to see how the 2 different groups, the law school and the Ministry of the Attorney General, approached it differently. The law school said, listen, I think we'd like to leave it open. We'll advertise your group and the students can come into the meeting, the open public meeting as they wish. Their thought was, the law school is small enough that you go into that, you're going to know the person that you're seeing on the screen. There's not going to be enough anonymity, enough distance that it's going to make people feel comfortable. So have them come into the public group. Yeah, you won't be able to talk about your experience as a law student so directly and have other people commiserate with you in that level, but there will be greater anonymity. The Ministry of the Attorney General said, listen, our group is so large, the ministry is so large, you may get a clerk from here, a crown from here, a case management coordinator. They may never even know each other, but the benefit of being able to talk about the similarities of experiences that you experience with the employer will be a benefit.
John, go ahead.
You, John.
Okay. I'm just wondering, percentage-wise, roughly, the people that turn up to your group, what percentage of them just come back to the same group time after time after time after time? And what percentage might show up once, get something off their chest, and then you don't see them again?
I would say we've got about, roughly a third, a third, a third. I would say a third are regulars, really consistent regulars, come to either the exact same meeting because the day works for them or they like the facilitator every week. That's their plan. That's their routine. I would say another third of them are long-term occasionals. They will show up here, there, whenever the time fits, whenever they need it. But they keep coming back over the years sporadically. And then another third are the one or two timers. Either they come in, they try it out, and they say, nah, this isn't quite for me. Or they try it out for a couple times, maybe 3 or 4 times over the space of 6 weeks or something like that. Perhaps it addresses the issue that they've got or gives them enough of a boost that they don't need to come back. And we may not see them again for sometimes. We've had a cycle of people where you see them here and then 2 or 3 years later, they come back and like, oh yeah, I haven't seen you in a while. How are you? So a third, a third, a third.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask another question if no one's?
Of course, go ahead.
So now that you've moved to the online platform, what do you need the money for? Where are the funds going to be spent? Because you don't need to get, a space, it's really just awareness efforts. Is that really where the funding goes now?
I would say go forward the 3 areas. One definitely is awareness. The awareness is physical advertising. So those little 4x6 cards I put up, we would print those. We've done a number of things with those. We've handed them out at an event. And I'll show you that. We also have had delivery service. Relatively cheaply, you can get those items delivered through the public to, not through Canada Post, but from a specific delivery person. And then the last thing is that we use those cards obviously at physical meetings, we hand them out. The other thing we use the money for is for physical online, the payments for Zoom, because our meetings last more than 40 minutes, we have to have a paid account. And because we have multiple facilitators, we have to allow an account for those two, or I don't know if it's a sub account or something like that, as well as for the meetup system. So that's that. The other thing is this go forward looking that we're going to be doing. Oh, sorry, I should also add the training. That was a significant component, and we used a reasonable amount of money the end of the last year and the beginning of this year for the mental health first aid training. So that was some of the things we've used the money for as well. I should also add, some of our facilitators are, let's say, not as technologically savvy as other people are. And so that has been a challenge. And in order to make sure that they're able to do their job, we've had to give them some additional supports on that. And lastly, obviously, is on a go forward basis, what we're looking to do is to get professionals involved. And one of the things that we would be using the money for is to pay for that service, so that hopefully the people themselves, the clients, would be paying $30, $40 for a therapy session, and we would cover the remaining 60, 70, 80, whatever it is per session. The idea would be, I think it would be, my hope is that we'd be able to get 2 people service each week. So 50 weeks times 2 is 100 services in the year. And if I can get the price down to $100 a session, which maybe I can, I don't know, would be about $10,000 a year. And so we've still got some money in the bank from other fundraising efforts, and certainly thanks to you again. But that's the plan for 2022, what our hope is.
Any chance Maggle, Ministry of the Attorney General, will fund your group?
I think highly unlikely. Sadly, there's just
Too much risk.
money out of them is just incredibly difficult. Incredibly difficult.
It's Brian here. Not knowing a lot about how the government funds that, but certainly there's been a lot of talk in terms of mental health at both provincial and federal levels of resources. Does any of the therapy fall under OHIP or not?
So any of the stuff that we're doing, we've got no OHIP funding for. It's a good question though about going forward and getting the therapists as to whether we can get OHIP funding for that. So thank you for that. I will look into that.
My understanding is that psychotherapy, like a psychiatrist therapy, is covered by OHIP if it's a referral. But psychotherapist and psychiatrist therapy, which is not a referral, are not covered by OHIP. So it's very specific. That's covered by OHIP. I mean, basically, a person has to be in dire needs in order to be covered for OHIP. It's not for everyone.
Let me show you. As I mentioned, we talked about some of the other things we've done, some of the outreach, and so here's one of the other things we had used some of the money for is T-shirts and a banner at the front, so we could go out. This is just outside the Michael Garron Hospital. Back in 2019, they had a Kick the Stigma event in Monarch Park, and so we've been doing outreach with that.
Joe, you had a question, right? And then I'll ask Elmer.
Joe, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Jason, it's been great listening to you, and I've met you a few times, and I do remember you at Monarch Park. I guess the question, you may have partially answered it, but how do you source the professionals in terms of people that have reached that level of treatment? And have you had anybody refusing that kind of additional treatment?
And when you say that, are you talking about our facilitators or?
Yeah.
So the facilitators, the people who sort of do the job that I often do, which is, okay, thank you, Joe, I appreciate you sharing. Fred, would you like to go next? That kind of person who runs the group. Right. At all of our meetings now, I just invite people. I just say, anybody who's interested, this is something that you can do. Please get in contact with me. Anybody who's interested, then so we don't want to push people. It's definitely not a push because that's not fun. If you're interested in doing this job, please get in contact with me. And then our process is a twofold process. We do internal training, and the internal training is to understand how to actually run a group. Not very difficult, but there are some cues that you have to be, that you have to be aware of. Technical training, how to actually use Zoom and stuff like that. And then the mental health first aid training, which is the most important thing when you're dealing with the clients, to understand how to ensure that if there's something very serious going on, that you know how to get professional help for the person, and also to be aware of what kinds of challenges people might present with. So, does that help, Joe?
Yep.
Elmer, last question from Elmer.
Okay, well, I'm curious about just how frequent this issue is. There must be a percentage of the general population who feels, wow, this is not for me, I don't need it, I don't have these problems. And there must be another percentage of the population that says, this is terrific that I finally have a place to go or a person I can speak to. Like, what's the breakdown of the various groups that this may or may not be of interest to?
Well, that's a bit of a challenge, because the people who don't identify, who say, I don't have an issue, or I don't think this is going to help me, we don't really have much contact with. So we don't know the people that aren't interested in our service. The people that do respond to our service I don't know if this is answering your question, but kind of like John's question earlier. It's that third, and third. Strong group of people who keep coming back, a medium group of people who do it occasionally, and then some who just try 1 or 2 sessions. But the people that aren't interested in our services or don't think that they have an issue, we don't get contact with them. Sadly, they're not. It's something they have to reach out to us to make that contact with.
Well, I guess the reason I'm asking the question is I have never been depressed. I've had stresses in my life and some severe stresses, but I feel I've always resolved them one way or another. And so I'm not drawn to your kind of service, but at the same time, I can see, looking around me, that there are many other people that should go there, or maybe they don't think they should go there, but I think they really should. So, that's why I'm interested in the breakdown.
Well, I think it's a little bit like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. A lot of people very much do not want to acknowledge that they've got I call it a mental wellness challenge, not a mental health issue or a disease or something like that. I try and frame it in a very positive thing. It's a challenge, and it's a mental wellness challenge, not illness. I want to get my wellness better. But a lot of people, are viewing this as a mental health issue, a mental, health disease or something like that. That's the way they view it. That's the way they're told about it in popular culture, and they don't want to identify with that. It's very challenging. It was very challenging for me initially to acknowledge that I had this and that I had to deal with this. At some point, a lot of people finally say, I'll do whatever it takes. If you're in chronic pain, at some point you're going to say, I will do whatever it takes to get out of this. And I think the biggest challenge for people once they've come to that point is, what do I do now? Because once they've come to that point, they're often, I need the help really quickly. And the psychiatrists, it's very difficult to get into. Even therapists, it can be very difficult to find. And that's one of the benefits for our group is it's there. It's always there. You can get service Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. You can get the service when you need it, and it's free. So I guess it's sort of an answer to your question there, Elmar. I guess the real answer is we're there for the people that want us. And if you see people that you think, hey, I think you might benefit from it, send them our way. The biggest cost to them is an hour of their time. And if it's not for them, it's not for them.
Okay, thank you, Jason.
I know I said Elmer is the last person to ask a question, but I see Brian is dying to ask a question. So Brian is the last person. Brian, go ahead.
I just wondered whether you've thought of their demographic groups and whether that might be a way of approaching some. So whether it be youth or a women's group or a men's group, and whether people sometimes feel more comfortable if they're within the same framework. But I just wondered whether you'd explored that area in terms of attracting individuals who have wanting to improve their mental health challenge and would feel more comfortable with a similar peer group.
Absolutely. We have investigated that. Sort of as I mentioned about the law students at Western Ontario, we approached them to see whether they would want something specifically for that group. And they ultimately said, listen, we prefer not to because it's just too small a group and that they would feel uncomfortable, I think, seeing each other, knowing them so much. We've actually had people talk to us about, hey, could we have a women's group or a men's group? And we're totally down with that. Can do that. It's easily done. What we need though is one person asks, one person is not a group. You need 4, 5, 6 people who are saying, yes, I'll come do that, and I'll be happy to do that. So we're open to that. We're willing to do that. We just need to see that there's enough demand for that. Once there's a demand for that, we can get that group up and running.
So I was thinking in terms of your law students, but it might have been better to look at it from a university or college perspective, where there would be a certain amount of anonymity at the same time as the same stresses and challenges where people are saying, yes, I've experienced that. I mean, the pressure of getting marks or dealing with their relationships or whatever.
Absolutely. And I mean, the way I see this would be easier rather than specifically for a law school, although that's where the introduction was, so that's why the discussion started there, would be a full university. You know, you get a university, you've got thousands of people, likelihood of them necessarily knowing each other goes down, but you got the same cohort of people. Generally speaking, the undergraduates are somewhere between 17 to 21 years of age, and it's a beautiful rolling system. If you can get the people in the third or fourth year of their education becoming the facilitators, then as the first year students might roll through, become second and third year students, they become the facilitators themselves, and the group just continues year after year. So I totally agree, Brian. I think having a focus group on some specific age or interests would be wonderful. It's just a matter of finding the right organization and the right group to make that work.
I just wondered in terms of, you know, there's so much talk at U of T or Ryerson or any of those major schools where they have thousands of students, whether they would be interested in helping to support and set up something like that with you.
So here's my ask to you people. Anybody know anybody there? It's that introduction that you need. The cold call is so difficult. If anybody knows anybody at any of these universities, please put me in touch with them and we can find something that works for them.
Thank you, Jason. We need to move forward now. Virginia, I think you're scheduled for the thank you.
I am. I'm scheduled for the thank you. Jason, this was incredibly interesting, and I think what is very interesting about it is we've had a number of speakers on mental health in the last month or so, but a lot of them have been very targeted, and I think what's really interesting about your peer-to-peer is that just that it is peer-to-peer, and anyone can pop in, like anyone can, you know, wants to answer a few questions can pop in. So it's a much more broad-based appeal, and thank you, because it feels like a service that gives us that ounce of prevention that maybe further down the road someone does not have severe challenges. So thank you very much, and I hope that we can continue to help out and maybe actually find some connections for you for other organizations. So thank you.
Oh, that would be great. Again, I really appreciate you folks taking the time to listen to me. I just put the email address you can contact me at in the chat. It's admin@mentalwellness.help. And I just want to say thank you very much.